In this video, I'll walk you through setting up the ASP.NET MVC version of orders.com that's configured to consume HTTP service proxies that interact with services hosted by the WebApi project that in turn is configured to consume entity framework data proxies that interact with a SQL Server database. Let's navigate to the solution. The first thing we need to do is set up the database. So in our package manager console, ensure that the orders.com.dal.ef project is selected and issue the following command. Great, now that our database is set up, let's go ahead and configure our MVC project. So let's navigate to the dependency injection file. This file contains information about our data proxies and business services that will be dynamically instantiated and injected into our MVC controllers at runtime. The first thing we need to do is ensure that the business services MVC section is commented out and the Web API Business Services section is uncommented. And in addition, let's ensure that the HTTP data proxy section is uncommented and all other data proxies sections are commented out. We need the HTTP data proxies section to be uncommented because our MVC project will need these proxies in order to communicate with our API project. So let's go ahead and set a breakpoint in our order items controller in the ship method. And now let's configure our API project. And like the MVC project, the API project has a dependency injection config file of its own that serves the same purpose. So in here, let's ensure that our entity framework section is uncommented, which it is, and that our in-memory data proxies section is commented out. And let's go ahead and open up the order items controller in our API project and also set a breakpoint to ensure that it's invoked the way that we hope it will be. One thing to point out is that because our API project is configured to consume entity framework data proxies, let's open our entity framework project and set a breakpoint on the ship method. Now, one thing to point out here is that the synchronous version of the repository is expected to be invoked because in our order items controller in our API project, we are invoking the ship command synchronously, which is going to delegate a synchronous call to the configured repository. So now that we have our breakpoints set, let's go ahead and ensure that the API and MVC projects are set as startup, and it looks like they are. So let's go ahead and run the application. Now, one thing to note is that the database is seeded to only inject customers. So let's go ahead and add some information so that we can place an order and ship an order item. We'll update the inventory. Let's go ahead and place an order. We'll submit it and ship it. And here we are in our MVC order items controller, which is going to invoke the ship command and therefore issue a HTTP put and will be received by our orders items controller in our Web API project. And here we are in our order items controller in the Web API project in the ship method. And this is once again going to invoke the ship command, which will in turn invoke the ship method of our injected entity framework order item repository. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in.